I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investmentpitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews with Elizabeth Kukka, the Executive Director of ETC Labs. Liz, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks, Ashton. I'm excited to be here.
You're very welcome. I'm excited as well, and let's dive right into it. If you could start by giving a little bit of background on what is Ethereum Classic Labs and how are you impacting the startup space, that would be a great place to start.
Yeah, Ethereum Classic Labs, we're an accelerator that's dedicated to the advancement of blockchain technology with a focus on Ethereum Classic. So pretty straightforward.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been following Ethereum Classic since the day it was created, and it's a great space to be in. And I know you guys are continuing to grow. And with the help of the investment, there's a lot of startups that are popping up utilizing Ethereum Classic right now. And you also work as the principal in Digital Finance Group and make investments into ETC Labs startups. So could you talk about, so far in 2020, what has happened with ETC Labs? Are you actively still making investments, and has your strategy changed so far?
Yeah, so we've changed a little bit. In 2019, we hosted two startup cohorts, and we were doing safe agreements at that time. And then since then, we've actually switched to a grants model, which is far more founder friendly, especially in such a nascent space where teams are really looking to build and grow their community and figure out what works and what doesn't work without the pressure of immediate returns. So we've switched to grants for the most part. Through Digital Finance Group, we have made a few investments as well, including Swarm, ChainSafe, and one other. It's slipping my mind right now. But and then on the grant side, we've made around 3. So we're doing pretty good. We're still pretty active.
That's great. And can you talk a little bit about what you look for when you're looking to invest into startups that are looking to move into ETC Labs?
Yeah, it's probably not that much different than, say, a pre-seed investor or an angel investor. It's probably pretty similar. So we look for teams that have strong tech and a strong technical background. We look for teams that have a pretty large community or supporters who we know are either going to support their technology and adopt it, or they're going to participate in a token sale and be champions of the company. And then we also ideally work with teams that already have a few paying customers. So it's pretty traditional to pre-seed investment, even on the grant side.
Definitely. And of course, paying customers and traction and product market fit obviously would be huge if they've already ticked those boxes as well. And I guess I'm a little curious about, one of the trending topics with a lot of startups has been social impact and economic impact and how they're making a change in the communities around them. Do you consider those as potential markers for investment that would be good with ETC Labs?
Yeah, it definitely is. So there's 3 categories that we focus on. One is financial inclusion. A second is dev for devs, at least that's how I call it. It's kind of like tooling and infrastructure. And then the third is impact in emerging markets. So financial inclusion and impact in emerging markets definitely falls into that category. And we've also worked with UNICEF. We made a pretty large donation there, sent a large donation their way, and also have made a commitment to invest or provide funding to startups that they work with through their blockchain innovation program. And then not only that, but I'd say, just to make sure that this isn't coming across as like, oh, we're just doing this because we're supposed to be doing this. But James Woe, our founder and chairman, he comes from a philanthropic background, and he was making in-kind donations to ETC before ETC Core joined Labs. And Terry comes from, working with the United Nations and working in emerging markets on innovation. And I was formerly working in like the public school space, nonprofits, environmental science background. So I just say all of this just to make it clear that we're certainly not doing it just as lip service.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting to hear. And I've spoken with James and Terry as well. I didn't know he was making in-kind donations to ETC, so that's really interesting. And I did read
before Labs. Yeah, beforehand.
Yeah, wow, that's great. And I did read the news on ETC Labs partnering up with UNICEF to drive blockchain solutions. That sounds really interesting, and it's great to see a mainstream charity being able to implement blockchain. Can you talk a little bit more about what initiatives are you working with them, and how does the blockchain fit into those solutions?
Yeah, so UNICEF has around 12 different areas of focus, and they cover everything from clean water to reliable energy, getting access to credit and loans, and so on and so forth. And so for ETC Labs, it's really about diversifying our portfolio and diversifying the teams that we're working with. And so for us, a few examples of teams that we've worked with include OS City, and OS City is a GovTech smart city solution. And with them, we focus specifically on their artisan project. So what that means is their artisan project is based in outside of Mexico City, working with street artists or like women mostly. And that's probably not street artists as you and I know in California or Vancouver, but street artists who are like knitting and crocheting and making bags and sweaters and scarves. And they're doing proof of origin, or proof that those handicrafts that you or I might buy as a tourist aren't coming from a factory. So that's one project that we worked on with OS City. A second is W3, also known as Telemesh, who are working with refugee camps and helping provide mesh networking solutions so that you can buy, sell, and trade data when you're in a place where all you need to know is that your family knows that you're safe, and that you can get access to healthcare if there's any emergency alerts, that you can have that data provided even if you don't have access to a paying network. So W3 Telemesh is another one. A third team that we're working with that I'm pretty excited about, this one's not through UNICEF, is PingMe. And PingMe is a microloan provider throughout the continent of Africa. And so with them, they're helping with credit scores, they're helping find small businesses that are looking for loans, and helping with the entire loan credit process from beginning to end. Kind of like an M-Pesa, but a bit different at the same time.
Very interesting, and a little bit of a different and a wide spectrum of solutions, which are really cool. And with that OS City, having these street artists, proving the origin of their supplies, that sort of reminds me of supply chain management. And I've heard that blockchain is sort of the ultimate solution for supply chain, and it's really going to be integrated through hopefully all of the world commerce as it continues to grow. Do you see ETC Labs focusing on supply chain or origin moving forward?
It's a possibility. It's not one of our focus areas. We've worked with a couple of teams through supply chain. And the reason why supply chain isn't an area of focus is because it tends to be an enterprise solution. And we're a public blockchain, fully open source. Not to say that we can't do a hybrid model where it's partially private or partially off-chain and partially on-chain. But for the most part, we're really focused on peer-to-peer solutions for the most part. And so supply chain is a little bit more tricky. Usually when you have consortium and multiple vendors interacting, it tends to need to have like a fully private solution. So it's not an area that we've looked to as much.
Yeah, well, okay, that's great. And I guess that leads me to the next part about the democratization of finance. And with Ethereum's protocol, there's been this major movement with decentralized finance and DeFi, where you can use smart contracts to lessen the intermediaries and be able to take out loans. And I'm guessing this is a major initiative in emerging markets and places where there's a lot of unbanked and people. So is Ethereum Classic Labs also looking at potential DeFi projects and maybe moving some of those Ethereum projects into Ethereum Classic?
We're certainly looking. And anyone who's listening and wants to apply, feel free to contact us at etclabs.org to let us know. But we're certainly looking, and we've made some headway. So for example, we've recently worked with ChainSafe, who built ChainBridge, which is a solution for ETC to connect with DeFi, with MakerDAO specifically. And so we're currently working on solutions that instead of reinventing the wheel, we just plug right in. But additionally, we are looking for stablecoin projects to work with.
Very cool. And how else are you expanding ETC Labs throughout the rest of 2020? Are you looking for more team members or strategic partners or more startups to invest into?
Yeah, always looking to expand and grow. We've been working with a few different universities lately, and that's in a number of ways. Lehigh University is one. They're over on the East Coast. And with them, we're working with both undergrad and graduate students to build out solutions on Ethereum Classic. So that's pretty neat. And we're looking to do the same with University of North Texas. We've done some talks at Stanford with their extended learning, both on blockchain and with their angel investor courses. We've worked with blockchain at Berkeley with their Accelerate program. So universities, we've definitely made a bit of an inroad. And then additionally, we work with other funds. Unventures is one of them. So in other words, growing our network in terms of investors, startups, researchers, universities, and corporates as well, and working with great people and people who want to work with us as well. So kind of having a business-friendly relationships as much as possible.
That's great. And yeah, it's great to get into the universities. And I think that that's a big push towards, all of those university students getting out into a career early and getting into this innovative technology. So please continue with that. And if there are more universities, scholars, partners, just community members that are looking to find out more about ETC Labs, what's the best way for them to learn more and to reach out?
Yeah, they can find us at etclabs.org. They can either go to the Accelerate section or grants. You can find me on Twitter at venture_this or at Telegram at LizTK. And otherwise, they can ping you, Ashton, probably, and you can send them over.
Definitely will do. And I will leave those links in the description box below for the viewers. Thank you so much for your time, Liz. It's been a pleasure hearing about ETC Labs. All the best for the rest of 2020, and let's follow up in the near future.
Yeah, great talking with you, Ashton. Have a great evening.